And we are on the air. What's going on, everyone? So today I'm joined with the incredible Aspie, SonofLucifer 6669, and HUMANe Mind. So today we're going to be discussing abortion. This is a topic that I think, will always be controversial on the internet and just in general everyday life. SonofLucifer and HUMANe are pro-life.
I just wanted to say, when you were about to start this, you said something very sexist. You said you were about to start broadcasting. Really, S-Man? Sorry.
Anyway, so I am personally pro-choice, and I've been pro-choice maybe either my entire life, or at least I didn't really give a shit about abortion, but as of last few years, I found myself leaning more pro-choice. I've had a discussion with Zach on this topic a couple months back. I don't know if you guys have seen it. As for with SonofLucifer and the incredible Aspie, I have not really heard their reasons. Aspie, you said in the Twitter DM you are morally pro-life and somehow pro-choice. For me personally, legally pro-choice. Yeah, I do consider myself maybe a bit pro-life in the sense that I think you should always consider all your options before you decide to terminate the fetus. But I'm not going to like.
Be an ultimate last option.
That's.
No, I don't think ever. I don't think when you're doing it just because I think it's very immoral to do it, especially if you're just wanting. If you had sex outside of wedlock and you got pregnant because you had a one-night stand and you don't want to take responsibility for your livelihood. I think that's a very selfish thing to do.
I mean, to be honest, okay. So actually, I'm going to pass it around. Give SonofLucifer the floor, and then after that, I'll be HUMANe, and then we'll, I guess, go back and forth on this. Go ahead.
Well, I used to be pro-life because when I was a Christian, and I still have mixed feelings about it, but mostly pro-choice because I do believe if a person, say a woman, gets raped, she should have the right to abort that child because she didn't want it. Same thing when it goes to. Hello?
Yeah?
Oh, whoa. Sorry, well, no, sorry, there's some. Well, that was weird. Sorry, I was a little bit lagging in the Googling out, my bad. Sorry, what was I saying? Okay, so. Basically about that issue. Yeah. And, like Cribble Aspie said, that's a thinker, but I still think it depends on her options. If she's not financially ready to take care of that child, then I think abortion should be necessary for her.
What about adoption?
Well, before we start getting into the different counter arguments like this, okay, so I am of the position that human life starts at conception. And based on that, the only time abortion would be morally acceptable is when the mother's and child's life are in danger. So either or, I guess I should say, instead of and. So when it's a case where, there is no good option, either the mother is going to die or the child is going to die or both of them could potentially die, that's the only situation where I can morally justify abortion ever coming in a situation. Now, as far as what I could see myself accepting from a legal perspective would be, so you got your medical issues and then cases of rape and incest. I could see those it being legally allowable in those cases. While I would disagree with them morally, it's very hard to fight against those from a purely moralistic standpoint if that was the letter of the law. I think anything beyond those scenarios, as far as allowing abortion, is both morally reprehensible and not legally, not even. I mean, there's no. I don't think there is a very good argument to make any instance of abortion outside of those three cases.
All right. So I guess I'm going to start off with the whole. I think you can condense it to four reasons. The four biggest reasons people use to justify abortion. In the case of rape, I agree. I think that fetus is going to be like a living reminder of of that person that raped you.
Hey, can I say something real fast about that rape? The thing is that also that's kind of questionable because you're saying that because this person did something bad to me, I'm going to kill this person right here.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the two wrongs don't make a right.
I mean, I'd simply say that in response to that when it comes to that. Okay, so we got Sinister D-Boy here. All right. So, yeah, when it comes to, I view it as that fetus is a living reminder, and they don't want a constant reminder of the person that raped them. I'm not. I know it sounds a bit harsh, to be fair, but it does kind of seem accurate to say it like that. That's going to be a constant reminder of the person that raped you. To be fair, go ahead.
Well, that seems a little shaky as far as that, because I mean, there's lots of things that can be a constant reminder of terrible things that happen to you, but just because of that, it doesn't give you. So this is from a purely moral perspective, where if you accept that people have the right to life, which I firmly believe that anybody that is a person has the right to life. It doesn't make sense that I don't want the reminder, so for some reason, because I don't want a reminder, I suddenly have the right to revoke somebody else's existence. Like, name another situation where you have the right, because of the way you feel, or if you're emotionally triggered, or you have a reminder of something terrible, where you get to kill somebody, because that's what I mean. It's from the perspective that a human, human fetus is a life. That would essentially be murder. Is there another situation where that sort of thing would be allowed, based on I don't want the reminder of that?
Outside of the womb, I would say no. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that when it comes to the whole topic of abortion, there absolutely needs to be a cutoff date. I do have an article which I'm going to present in a second to show where I'd probably put the cutoff mark. But HUMAne's brother here, I haven't heard his opinion on abortion, so I don't know if he's pro-choice or I'm going to assume pro-life, just to be honest. But I'll let him take the floor and explain his position.
Oh, I'm most definitely pro-life. I'm siding with my brother here. I think everybody deserves a chance to exist. Once you have the potential to grow into a person, as in you are now a fetus in development within the mother, I think you have your own set of rights. Yes, we're dependent on the mother to carry us through the first 9 months, but that's how every animal in existence is on this planet. That's how we reproduce as a species. That's just the way things are. But you can't start a life, let it get partially developed to where it already has feelings, it's already starting to develop its own preferences even before it's ever exited the womb, and then say, well, it's still my choice, just like what kind of gas I want in my car is my choice, what I ate for breakfast is my choice, and whether I kill this baby is my choice. It's not that simple.
But wait, if you were that woman who was raped, would you have the child of your rapist?
Okay, so on that topic of rape, do you guys have any firm statistics on how many of abortions every year are due to rape?
Oh, okay.
Very small number, very tiny. It's like
to be honest,
below 1%.
it's a small number. Like
1%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
so
even though,
I think we need to do like a deep analysis, and we can actually kind of discuss that a bit more. But the other 99%, I don't agree with ever. You decided to go have sex. Yeah. You decided to go, not use a contraceptive. You took actions, and now you are ending a life because you made bad decisions. That's the same thing as manslaughter.
Well, and okay, I'm going to go back to something HUMAne said before I go on to that point. So going back to what HUMAne said about life starting at conception. All right, if that is true, I don't know anyone's ages here. I know SonofLucifer is 17. Yeah, and I am 16. My birthday was last month. How come I wouldn't be 17 years old if my life started at conception? If life starts at conception, wouldn't I be older than I currently am? Like,
but
actually, kind of arguing semantics there.
Yeah, that's semantics. But in Korean culture, when you are born, you are 1 year or 0 years old. So your first birthday or sorry, no, when you're born, you're 1 year old, so your first actual birthday outside, you're considered 2 years old. But it's semantics at that point.
Oh, well, I'm just curious about your guys' take on it.
I think life would already exist before conception, actually.
But it depends on what you're talking about as far as life. So I saw the video you posted in the Hangouts where that lady is talking about, life has always existed, and and you're talking about the life of sperm and life of eggs, and I'm like, well, the life of a sperm cell and the life of an egg are not the same thing. Otherwise, we'd be convicting each other of murder for scraping off skin cells and for
That's sperm cells and eggs don't have a mind of their own. They're not conscious beings. What they are is mostly proteins that have an attraction towards each other. They have kind of a draw towards each other.
Yeah, and I know this might sound ridiculous,
but they do not exist just to exist and survive. They exist for a single purpose, and that is to fertilize the egg and then produce life after. There is no other purpose for that.
So S-Man has this tab pulled up with medical information. What exactly are you showing there?
Okay, so this is something I remember finding at some point, and I just thought it was interesting. All right, so as you can see here, this is week 5, and then it goes all the way to the 40 weeks of a pregnancy to the end. And the 10-week mark really struck me as interesting because it says it right here, and I'm not trying to cherry pick. If you guys want me to go over the whole thing, I surely will. Okay, so in this highlighted text, it says, at the end of the 10th week of pregnancy, your baby is no longer an embryo. It is now a fetus, the stage of development until birth. I will drop a link to the article in not only the Hangout, but I will, and in the live chat as well. So hang on, I'm going to, just so we don't...
when does it have a nervous system?
Oh, nervous system? All right, let's see. All right, so I'm going to go a few weeks back to see where the nervous system...
Yeah.
Major systems start to develop at week 5. Brain, spinal cord, and heart begin to develop at week 5. And here's the thing, right? I might be pro-choice, but I'm not pro-abortion. I'm just in favor of letting people decide for themselves. Like, to me, I'm always in favor of all the alternatives, like adoption or maybe keeping the kid.
Or now that the invention of artificial wombs, even that might be an option.
I think that'd be a good option. Like if you're,
I don't think.
What do you mean by artificial wombs? As in as in prosthetics, or you're talking about like
no, there's
a laboratory
that works now.
I'm trying to find where it says, if it says at all about the nervous system. As I'm trying to find that, but so far I'm going to go back to maybe the beginning. Anyway, so, I should probably just post the link if you guys want to read it yourselves.
Yeah.
All right,
this is the first debate I ever did was with versus some guy talking about abortion, and I brought up what I thought were pretty decent and relevant sources, and he dismissed them all completely and provided his own source, showing pictures where he was talking about like the fetus looking like kind of like a squid or some kind of abstract cluster of cells. And then after the fact, after the debate, like I did my rebuttal video, and I go straight to the Wikipedia, and the images on Wikipedia are pretty much like in line with the images that I was showing as part of our debate. And I'm just kind of like I don't know what so the images he was using were supposedly like MRI scans of a fetus in development. And I don't know why they look all weird like that. But the pictures that you can see on almost every other site, and any kind of medical source, and even just the mainstream widely accepted views from like Wikipedia, yeah, it does. It very much looks like a baby, even from very early on. I mean, as early as 5 and 8 weeks, they start to develop like all of the things that we would recognize as being part of a human.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and to Saiyomi, quick question: are you pro-life or pro-choice, or somewhere in between?
I'm pro-choice.
All right, and would you like? I'm going to let you explain why you think that way, just so we can all get onto that. If Zach can join, hopefully he does, so we can hear it. Because I can't remember. Like he kind of does agree with he does agree with HUMANE and HUMANE's brother as far as argumentative terms. He's more sympathetic to abortion when it comes to rape and incest. Well, not as sympathetic when it comes to incest, but rape, he gets the reasons why. But he would use the argument, which I guess we'll get into later when it comes to you shouldn't punish it, but we'll get into that in a minute. So go ahead, Saiyomi.
I think one of the reasons why I'm more pro-choice is I see it as the fetus doesn't have really personhood until it has viability.
When they have viability.
And viability means can it survive outside of the mother's womb?
Well, let's let Saiyomi finish, and then with rebuttals, because I do have a rebuttal to that.
All right.
Yeah.
If it's to the point where it can survive outside of the mother's womb, then I'm not for abortion for that.
I agree. Yeah.
So so I think that's around 27 weeks. Do you think a 26-year-old baby should be allowed to abort a 26-week-old baby?
Personally, I would say I would cut it off maybe a couple weeks before then, because I think at that point it's still too far along. Because
that's after
actually, all right. So, okay. So further along, like I'd say at the end of the 10th week, I'd say no. I'd cut it off there. In Pennsylvania, it's at 24 weeks, and I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, that's too far along.
Yeah.
You were bringing up that doctor in Pennsylvania. I think it was in Pennsylvania. Doctor, whatever his name is, I can't remember.
I think cutting it off at the first trimester is more ethical.
I would say try and do it before the actual cutoff. I would encourage them as early as you can.
Well, the first trimester is still not as long as what it currently is.
Yeah. All right. So yeah.
So there is no national cutoff date, and I think it's been a long time since I looked this up, but I know there are some states that don't have any kind of cutoff limit. So the day before could still be a viable time for an abortion.
That's
because there is no cutoff date for abortion. But to me, when you were talking about the viability of fetus, that seems completely bizarre. Because when you're talking about viability of the fetus, like could the fetus survive outside of the mother? Well, humans can't survive without their mothers, or at least somebody taking care of them for years. So I don't understand why being inside the womb as opposed to outside the womb changes that, because that
was one of the main arguments in Roe versus Wade, actually.
Yeah, but infants are entirely dependent on other people because they cannot provide for themselves. They are still being developed outside of the womb. So if you're going to allow for that to be a condition for
well, of course
abortion,
they're going to be cared for outside of the womb, but can they physically survive out of it?
Yeah.
With care.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
when it comes,
I'm not seeing a difference between the two, because
it's also the case of premature babies. Some of them have been born within the 7-month period, and they do need some additional assistance for a week or so. But after that, so having just 9 months doesn't actually apply to all fetuses, all babies. Some are born a little early and they're just fine. Some are premature. They need help for a week or so afterwards, but then they develop fine. So why is that 9 months birth considered the end of being a fetus and actually born when there's probably many infants that could be born at the 8-month period? It just doesn't happen naturally most of the time.
Yeah.
There's always exceptions to either side. I think everybody's analyzing this too much, and I brought this up with my brother's last debate.
Yeah.
Are abortions good? Is it a good thing?
To answer that, personally, I would say when it comes to the whole topic, I'm not going to lie. I personally do not like it. But I would, again, refer to you back to what I said earlier about letting people decide for themselves. Is my way, I understand, is not the way for everybody. And when it comes to just being pro-choice, I'm not pro-abortion. Like, I say check out all your options. You got adoption, taking responsibility and keeping the kid, or I would simply say if you're going to abort, it should be exactly your last resort.
Well, here's my thinking on this. Are cigarettes good? Is alcohol good? No, neither is legal, but it is your choice whether you imbibe in those substances, whether or not you get cancer down the road because you decided to do substances which are known to do this. So when you partake in an activity that is known to cause pregnancy, and you don't take as much precaution as you can beforehand, you don't respect yourself enough to limit yourself to a particular partner that maybe you do want to raise a family with, you don't use contraceptives at every available opportunity. Most abortions are not because of a failed contraceptive, it's just people having sex and not doing anything about it, and then they wind up pregnant. That is the majority of them. And then they don't want to face consequences after. So is surgery a good thing? No. But it can help save lives and it can prevent certain consequences of actions. So it has its purpose, but wouldn't it be better if people just didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't have sex unless they were planning on having a baby, or taking, using contraceptives at every opportunity to ensure that they don't wind up pregnant, to take careful steps and measures to try and prevent it. So there are those rare cases where contraceptive will fail, yes, but it's something like less than 1%. If she's on birth control and they're using a condom, it's extremely unlikely that she's going to wind up pregnant.
I also think that men should there should be an option of birth control for men. I think.
Oh, I'm 100% for that. Vasectomies.
Yeah,
I would actually.
You don't have to inject a syringe into my penis like that.
Yeah, vasectomies only have to be done once. Abortions can be done as long as a woman keeps getting pregnant. So if government's going to pay for any sort of birth control, I would actually opt for vasectomy.
And I hate
especially
to say
since
this,
the guys tend to be more sexually active with multiple partners. I'm fine with that.
But men tend to be more responsible than women, like over birth control and such.
Yes, because they understand that if she becomes pregnant, he will be paying out the rear the rest of his life.
All of the
Exactly.
He will have his ass handed to him and be taken advantage of left and right. So guys have to be on guard, and that's just because of the way society has dealt with unwanted childbirth or separated parents. Guys get the shaft every time.
And another thing, I believe, as long as she has all of these choices to opt out of parenthood, I think men should have the option too.
Yes,
go both ways.
Yeah, that's the other thing that is a problem, right? Abortion right now is completely it's completely the mother's right? What about if the guy wants to have his kid? That is
part of his body that caused it to happen.
So even though it's not developing inside of him, it's half his responsibility. That is half of his DNA. But right now, a guy doesn't get to say.
Especially in the case of and to clarify, I actually did argue with somebody about this who was pro-choice, but wouldn't allow somebody to like he said, oh, men should not have an opinion on abortion. I said, then why do you? But anyway, and I explained to him that I'm sorry, but that's it's like.
It takes two to tango, so why does only one get to make the final decision?
It takes two to tango. It also, especially in the case of, I am very much in favor of, if the guy wants to keep the kid, I think the guy should be able to ask, like, I'll take this kid off your hands. You can sign away your parental rights. Just don't kill the motherfucker. I'm fine with that.
As kind of a sub-statement to that, if she decides to go through with the birth, he's liable. He's responsible. She can get a DNA test, and he'll be paying child support for the rest of that child's younger life.
She's the only one who gets to opt out.
He can't opt out of parenthood, but they can, and
it's a hypocrisy.
They can have their cake and eat it too. It's like it's totally fucked.
Yes, that's why I feel like maybe we can have a conversation about that type of thing in society for another time. But anyway, I do agree that that both parents should have the option to opt out, like a financial abortion, some people call it, which I think is a funny term. Where men can opt out of I've heard people call a financial abortion when the man gets to opt out of being a father, which that's for another stream, as that my opinion is quite different there. But anyway, I do feel like maybe if you guys want to, we can read over this and see how we interpret it. All right, so first, in weeks 1 and 2 of the pregnancy, a woman is not yet pregnant, which this one did strike me as odd, but anyway.
Hey, you guys, I gotta go for a minute. I got to.
Okay.
I've just got home, so.
All right, that's fine.
I'll be back. Bye.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Well, so my question before you start reading this list here is, I am pro-life.
Okay.
But I do understand there are certain extenuating circumstances that could lead people to actually lean towards an abortion. So on the rape stance, I would like it if the mother would carry to term, but I do understand the mental devastation that can be there if she feels it's an evil part of her life. It's a stain or a scar that will be with her forever, and that can be traumatizing, not only her but also the child. Because she's not going to care for that as a mother normally should, because she would feel it's some sort of bastard offspring. And I understand that, and I understand certain health implications. Certain women, it's just unknown until they become pregnant that this could be the end of their life. But those two main cases that everybody keeps arguing for the cause, or to keep abortions going and to keep them just legal, and the only argument is at what term, what week. The other 99% is just people screwing around and got pregnant, and they're scared and don't want to deal with it. I think we need to stigmatize this again as it used to be. Maybe not you're going to jail and people chucking Bibles at the back of people's head, because I hate that junk. But make it to where abortions is a bad thing still. And then people are less likely to go out and be extremely promiscuous and become pregnant in the first place. Then, as that number whittles down, we find out what's an acceptable term, what could be acceptable circumstances where this would seem okay. And I think we should have also maybe more stringent rules. If you're someone who's had more than one abortion, you're on a list. If you get 3 and 4 abortions, maybe the government should pay to have your tubes tied. I mean, I would pay for that, because that's 5 lives gone because you can't keep your legs closed, or you can't keep your junk in your pants if you're a dude.
All right, so I'm going to address a few things. Okay, first of all, I can get where you're going with the whole with the whole rape thing. I mean, and I'm just going to say it. I do believe that for a woman, no matter what choice she chooses, whether she keeps it or she aborts or puts it up for adoption, which I'd rather have people put the kids up for adoption. But anyway, no matter what she chooses, that choice is going to impact her for the rest of her life. I don't think anyone did, maybe there's a few who are that desensitized, and an abortion is like going out to Arby's and getting yourself a sandwich. And then there's some who option and they didn't want to do it, but they had no other option to do so. And I will say that when it comes to stigmatizing abortion, to me, I don't think, even if we did criminalize it, let's say, or at least made it against the law, I don't think...
I didn't say necessarily against the law, but right now, it's just out there.
I think
a 16-year-old girl can wind up pregnant from her high school boyfriend and go to one of these clinics and not disclose information to anybody, including her own parents, and just opt for an abortion.
I think if they had to pay for it themselves, they would take more precautions. Or at least after, the first one is like, okay, we're not paying for any more. You're going to have to fight out of pocket.
There's another side, which I wanted to kind of point out. I don't know if you realized you were doing this, S-Man, but you kept saying it, which I think is a problem. At least that's a huge problem for me, is because that's that whole dehumanizing aspect, where people refer to fetuses as, oh, that's not really a baby, that's a fetus. And it's like, it's just a zygote, or it's just an embryo. And I'm like, but that's a human life from where I can see, because I don't know how you can, how you can make it I mean, to me, that's no different from saying, like, okay, that's an infant or that's a toddler. And it's like, does that stop at any point in that from being a human life? But saying things like well, that's how people can be desensitized to it.
What do you think of in vitro and fertilization? What do you think of in vitro and fertilization?
Yeah, so that is an area that I think, if other people started to agree and accept that life begins at conception, that would create all huge problems for the in vitro process, because then they couldn't do multiple eggs at a time. They would have to do one at a time. But I think that would also, maybe they would start looking at multiple ways of of improving that process, so they could only do it one at a time. But right now, since there is no incentive for them to do anything other than in batch, then they have to do that right now. But if it was, I mean, if say it was illegal or whatever, or considered the same thing as murder, then they would have to find another way to make it so that they only did one at a time.
Okay.
That seems like a minor area of this kind of broader topic.
Yeah. So I'm gonna respond to what you had to say about my. The reason I would say it first, like when it comes to the whole, how do we address it? Like how do we even refer to what's growing? I'll just say what's growing inside this woman's womb. I try to find a way to describe it without saying, oh, it's a baby, so I don't get pro-choice people, like I don't get their cunt hairs in a twist, and I try to find a way to refer to it so I don't get the pro-lifers to be all critical of it and of what I'm saying. But when I say it, like I can refer to someone as an it.
Oh yeah, well that's mostly by their choice.
Yeah, or just to be a bit of an asshole about it. But anyway,
people go by it these days.
To me, that's hilarious. Does someone have a vacuum on or something? I just need to say that. Does someone
I'm hearing like every 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah, is there? Who has their? SonofLucifer.
No, it's not me.
It's not me. Who the hell is?
Someone's vacuuming a fetus.
Oh, is that your little machines, maybe? Are those that loud?
No. That, I'm on a laptop, so maybe it is my laptop.
I'm not sure.
Is that coming from my end? Actually, yeah, let me mute myself and see if that...
I don't know. I haven't heard it.
I don't hear it now.
A minute.
Yeah. Aspie, is that you? Is it you? I don't know.
That might have been my swing. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know. Either way, so... I mean, I can get why some people, might lead to dehumanization. I'm not sure what to refer to as, but I try to be neutral for both sides just to find a term they can both find acceptable. But I understand people find it cringeworthy when I say try to appeal to both sides, but that's besides the point. But to get onto this article, well, it's from medlineplus.gov, so I kind of take it I do take it more seriously than blogs or whatever. Anyway, the first week of pregnancy starts with the day of a woman's menstrual period. She's not yet pregnant. During the end of the second week, an egg is released from an ovary. This is when you are most likely to conceive if you have unprotected sex. So that's week 1 to 2. If anyone wants to stop me, just say, hey, hold on or something, okay? All right. During intercourse, sperm enters the vagina. Yeah. Strong sperm. Yeah.
Wait. Whoa.
Oh, I just assumed.
Is this saying that you shouldn't have sex till the 3rd week?
Oh, no, it's just describing how the whole thing happened.
So what's weeks 1 and 2? The egg has not yet been fertilized. Those are not. That's.
Well, no, I think they're just.
I'm confused about.
Yeah,
it sounds like if this is correct, that the actual point of inception is week 3. They're just talking the first 2 weeks as the woman's body getting ready. After the menstrual period, to be able to conceive and have the egg in place, which would mean week 10 is actually week 7 of conception.
Okay, here's what they're saying. Okay,
doctors go by the date of conception.
All right, so it says from this article, which is linked, which I posted in the Hangout chat, which you guys are all able to see, right? All right, so it says in the article, it says that means during weeks 1 and 2 of pregnancy, a woman is not yet pregnant. Which I will admit, when I read this myself,
how do those even count as weeks then?
They're talking about because a woman can't get pregnant right after she's menstruated because there's no egg there.
Yeah.
It's been fleshed out. So the 1 to 2 weeks before this is the optimal time for her to get pregnant. So this is more of her body, it seems like, getting prepared.
Yeah. I will admit it was a bit of a mind fuck. I'm not going to
I'm still confused as to why that's considered week 1 and 2 of a pregnancy.
I don't, when it's not with doctors.
That's a woman's most fertile time.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it on this site, but doctors go by day of conception. They have the little circle gauges, and they estimate when your last ovulation was and how far along you are, and they'll try and pinpoint almost to the.
They can guess the night where you conceived.
Yeah, so because they're trying to guess how far along you are, so they can tell, make sure everything's progressing normally. They don't include those 2 weeks. So if this document is to be believed and correct, they're saying week 10, the fetus is now established. It's gone beyond an embryo into a fetus, which would mean after conception is more of week 7 to 8.
Oh, wait.
And we're doing 12-week partial birth, or not partial birth abortion, 12-week abortions. It said week 10. Well, you just read that earlier.
No, I'm saying, didn't this same article say by week 5 there was a heartbeat, or the heart was developing, and all?
So we'll continue through.
Okay, yeah.
That just caught me as
okay.
I didn't.
Yeah.
The first 2-week thing threw me.
Yeah, I will admit, when I first saw this, it was a bit of a mind fuck, to be honest. Okay, so yeah, we're week 3, and it kind of describes how it all starts off, I guess. Fucking dogs. Not my dogs, but anyway. Anyway, week 4, which this once the blastocyst reaches the uterus, it buries itself in the uterine wall. At this point, the mother's menstrual cycle. In the menstrual cycle, the lining of the uterus is thick with blood and ready to support a baby. The blastocyst sticks tightly to the wall of the uterus and receives nourishment from the mother's blood. Okay, that's disgusting, but that's whatever.
Part of life.
It's
that's part of life.
That's how we all got here.
Yep, to be fair. Okay, week 5 is the start of the embryonic period. This is when all the baby's major systems and structures develop.
Yeah.
Embryo cells multiply. If you guys have any of your own sources, I'm absolutely willing. Just link me in the hangout.
I'm saying from the point of actual conception, it's saying week 5, but that is technically week 3 from the point of conception. That is ridiculous.
The embryo starts to develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, to be fair, this is just one. I guess there might be others to look at maybe for later. I don't know. But anyway, all right. The embryo cells multiply and start to take on specific functions. This is called differentiation. Mm-hmm. Blood cells, kidney cells, and nerves all develop. The embryo grows rapidly, and the baby's external features begin to form. Your baby's brain, spinal cord, and heart begin to develop. The baby's gastrointestinal tract starts to form. It is during this time in the first trimester that the baby is at most risk for damage from things that might cause birth defects. This includes certain medicines, illegal drug use, heavy alcohol use, and infections such as rubella and other factors. I would say if you could find, like, the moment you find out you're pregnant, if you're going to do it, at the very least, do it before this, if you can find a way.
Do it if you can if you can spot it quick enough, you can take the morning after pill.
Oh, at 5 weeks?
No, if you can, if you're having the sickness and stuff or whatever, quick enough.
Yeah, I think those are viable for the first 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Arm and leg buds. Okay, this is at week 6 to 7, and I will admit, I will say there's some questionability, but I think we already went over why with the whole weeks 1 and 2. But anyway, week 6 to 7, arm and leg buds start to grow. Your baby's brain forms into 5 different areas. Some cranial nerves are visible. Your eyes and ears begin to form. Tissue grows that will become your baby's spine and other bones. Baby's heart continues to grow and now beats regular rhythm. Mm-hmm. And it basically, for the next couple weeks, starts to list other things to grow, just in the interest of time. But why I really focused on week 10 is basically, this is where I definitely say I would be more in favor of a cutoff date. Okay, so at week 10, your baby's eyelids are more developed and begin to close. The outer ears begin to take shape. Fucking Windows. Anyway, baby's facial features become more distinct. The intestines rotate at the end, and this is something I definitely emphasize on. At the 10th week of pregnancy, your baby's no longer an embryo. It is now a fetus, the stage of development until birth. So before then, it's not a fetus. I guess you could call it a zygote, according to this article.
No, it says embryo. Zygote is...
at the very big,
At the very beginning, it was zygote, and then
the zygote is what needs to be implanted in the uterine wall.
Yeah.
After that point, it's considered an embryo until the fetus stage.
Yeah. So questions go ahead on this and see if this makes sense to you guys, or if you can kind of concur on this. Why at the end of the 10th week is that determined the point where it's now a fetus? Because it looks like week 10, it's starting to grow some eyelids, the outer ears, and the facial features are more distinct. But it sounds like all of the internal organs, the brain has already started to develop, and it has a nervous system a week or 2 weeks before that. So I don't understand the week 10. Also, if we still look at those first 2 weeks on this list, technically this would be week 8 or the month and a half after the baby has actually started to develop, like after inception. Not pregnancy, as they call it here.
I just want to mention something that
Go ahead.
when I've seen videos on how they do abortions and I saw a video on how they do it with them. Out at this stage, around week 10, they use like a vacuum type mechanism, and I saw
because their bones are
I saw a video. You could actually it actually mentioned that the doctor actually mentioned that the baby that started, it could actually tell something was wrong and started to panic.
That's
it had a consciousness that it knew something was going to happen to it.
That's a video that's been around for a while, and so it's part of the Silent Scream is the documentary, but that's apparently there's a bunch of incorrect statements in that documentary itself. But the footage it's all based off of is legit, and I haven't heard anybody saying anything about that footage. Because it's an actual,
so I can't comment on it.
In utero, what's that called? Ultrasound. So it's an ultrasound of an abortion taking place, and you can see the vacuum, or the tip of the vacuum tube entering the uterus, and the fetus starts swimming away. Like it is trying to swim. So our arms and legs are flailing, and it is trying to go away, kicking away from the hose. So it is. I mean, it's pretty disturbing footage, and I'm like, I don't know how. And that was a 12-week abortion.
And don't let me talk about how they do late terms. They literally rip the baby apart.
Late terms, I'm against. I'm not gonna. Let me make that clear right now. Late term, I'm against, but I'm not sure how often that happens.
I'm not supportive of that whatsoever.
So while it doesn't happen that often, it still can very much happen. And like I think I mentioned this earlier, or maybe it was in a different stream, where Gosnell. What he was actually encouraging patients to get late term abortions, because what they were doing is with Planned Parenthood is a huge scandal that is seen. I mean, it's seen some coverage, but very little. But that's what Planned Parenthood was doing, is they were encouraging later-term abortion, because the later money is, they can make more money off of parts and off of stem cells. So they were encouraging mothers to wait.
That's primarily what all of this has stemmed from. 50 years ago, people weren't actually in discussion on whether that's a living entity or not. Yeah, you're pregnant. That's a baby in there. That's just how everybody referred to it. It has been a slowly decaying mindset within this country and Western civilization, where the terms embryo and fetus have begun to take on a connotation of it's just a lump of cells. Whereas here, fetus,
we're all
fetus means everybody's a lump of cells.
Fetus is actually Latin for baby.
But what I'm saying is, they have been slowly whittling away at these terms to where now the general public just hears these terms, first trimester abortion, and it is now just nobody cares. It's right over their heads. It has now become mainstay, when it used to be looked at as an awful thing. You're killing a baby that hasn't been born yet. So arguing on semantics of exactly which week would be considered an appropriate week to get this done, I think even if it's not made illegal, the best option would be to lessen the amount of abortions needed. In Western civilization, just cutting it off is going to be met with a lot of backfire. It's going to be met with a lot of controversy and people that go against it. The country's already divided 50-50 because neither side knows all the facts. So it's already split in half on the subject of pro-life choice.
So we need to have better alternatives.
Yeah, and I'll be asking pro-lifers.
Well, the alternative is consciousness. When younger people and people in engaging in sexual activity understand repercussions, they will take more action to make sure their contraceptives are working, to make sure that he's got newer condoms that have been sitting in a drawer for 3 years, to make sure she's on her pill, or has that new O-ring, whatever that thing is. I mean, you know, or some kind of dam. There's plenty of over-the-counter or partial prescription medication stuff you can do as a contraceptive before it ever even gets to this point. Most abortions are because people did not take those actions, and Planned Parenthood actually has been on record a couple of times saying they encourage women to get pregnant because they make a killing off of abortions. No pun intended, but sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, how about what do you think making it more expensive would at least encourage people not to wait that long or to take better precautions?
I'm thinking cost is not an issue. I think it's parenting and the overall mentality of the nation as a whole. The more we can educate people and say it is a life, because since they've stripped that word life away, it is no longer a living being. It is just a clump of cells all the way up to week 12 or whatever week they make up. People don't care anymore. Whereas if they did, the parents would be more conscious in their younger children's lives, those who are getting pregnant way too early because they're out, you know, sleeping around. And as kids turn into teenagers, you know, teenagers grow into adults, they will be more aware of the repercussions or responsibilities of what it means. And if it's now considered ending a life, it'll put more thought into their decision on abortion. So it's more of just general awareness to decrease the number of abortions. Because I know we're not just going to get rid of it right away, but I would like to see people just being smarter. Right now, they can go sleep around, and a woman can have 10 different partners in a month, or a guy can sleep with 20 different women in a month, and they can go get as many abortions as they want, and they're told, it could have some negative effects on your reproductive system down the road, but it's all legal, and you're fine. Just pay us the money. So
because
it can have negative.
Oh yes, it can, especially after 2-3 abortions. It can totally screw up a woman's system. And is that their choice when they've been lied to their entire life and said it's your choice? What happens when they want to have a child after that and they can't? Because there are cases of that happening from women having too many abortions, thinking there's no side effects, there's nothing wrong with it, and it's legal, and now they can't have a family when they want it. And nobody cares about that. You don't hear about that on the news.
Also, there's many complications sometimes which do worse.
Yeah, I got a question for the pro-lifer side of this, because I know that pro-choice people bring this up a lot. He gave a rebuttal to it, but I can't remember what he said. Maybe you guys might have the same argument. What do you think the whole, if we ban abortion or restrict it, people are just going to say, fuck that, and they're going to have like a back alley abortion type of thing, where that's even more dangerous than medical professionals doing it.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
So why bother banning it if people could simply...
That's why I didn't even mention banning it.
Oh,
what I am for pro-life is public consciousness and awareness of what it's actually doing, and just making people more responsible for their actions and their choices.
Of society, in other words.
Yeah, like
we should set up the system to where it de-incentivizes people from having abortions. You know, people have, rather than taking them, thinking that you could just sleep around and just have, people should be told that they are going to have to take responsibility for what they want. And also, no tax money should ever go to funding abortion.
Yeah, if they have to pay for all this shit, they're not going to be in such a goddamn hurry to get one.
All right, and as far as the back alley abortion thing, because that is a legitimate argument that has been used a lot, and I've used it myself when it concerns drug use. As prohibition taught us, you make something illegal, doesn't stop it from happening, people just put it underground. And I actually think that is a legitimate argument when it comes to things like alcohol and things like drugs. But I don't think that's a legitimate argument when it comes to abortion, because if you think about it like the way that I do, where that is an actual life, that argument could essentially be, we shouldn't make murder illegal because people are going to murder in the back alley. And it's like, wait a minute, what? Okay, I don't think we should make drugs illegal if people will do them, but the consequences of doing drugs, they aren't stripping someone else of their rights, whereas the reason we make murder illegal is it's stripping someone else of their right to life. And I would say that same kind of logic should apply to abortion when it's okay. Yes, they are going to do it anyway, but you should still, the idea of making something illegal is to stop someone from encroaching upon the rights of somebody else.
So you're making it illegal then?
Yes.
Okay, and to address
except for in the instances of medical issues, like where it's medical complications during pregnancy.
Yeah. All right, and to address what your brother said earlier about like, okay, to be fair, I didn't mean like, okay, you didn't say specifically ban it, which okay.
Yeah.
Well, just in general, when people like Zach is the type of pro-lifer, he does want to ban abortion. That was kind of what I was referring to instead, actually, but.
And that's typically the position, but
yeah. And here's another question. And I know this might sound like a false equivalency, but hear it out anyway. Are any of the pro-lifers in this hangout in favor of the death penalty? Because if so, where do we draw life to not be sacred? Because if you're pro-life but pro-capital punishment, where do we draw the line that says life is not sacred?
What about
Hold on. There's a lot of noise.
Can I say something? Can I say?
Go on.
Go for it.
I was going to say the reason why people why I'm against abortion before capital punishment. Here's the thing: when you're aborting a child, that child had no chance. During capital punishment, that guy or girl did have a chance. He threw away his chance. He got to live his life, but he chose to be a criminal and chose to either kill somebody or rape a child or whatever. And now he's getting what he deserved: a baby or something that's in the womb that has never lived, never breathed, or never even had a chance. Does not get that. That's a whole nother line. They're not even the same animal. It's not even. They're not even comparable.
So wait, are you saying because they haven't had a chance to live that they don't have rights like everybody else because they haven't experienced life yet?
No.
Yes.
The opposite of that.
Well, the reason I brought it up was to make a comparison of where we draw. Yeah, and I guess and
that's a little ludicrous. As right now, blacks are complaining because they haven't had a chance to succeed like everyone else.
Then they.
So having a chance. That's subjective, completely subjective. That's nothing that can be measured by any quantifiable means.
Yeah, and
the chance at living is that baby is growing inside somebody. That's its chance. You took that chance. Now, black people, people of color, whatever, are already complaining because systemic racism has taken their chance to succeed, and everyone's looking at this as a legitimate article. Whereas most liberals or centrists are standing back and saying, no, you just need to work harder. Is that the same type of argument? If someone takes your chance away at having something, are they in the wrong? And if so, then you taking a chance of a baby having a life is in the wrong. Otherwise, if you have prevented people from going anywhere or having a chance at a fuller, more fulfilling, successful life, and that's not wrong, then abortion kind of, I would think, falls in the same realm. It doesn't matter. It's fine if you prevent other people from their pursuit of happiness, which is a constitutional right. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
That was just a question I've heard people say. Oh, there's the hypocrisy with pro-lifers. Some are pro-capital. There's some that are against the death penalty, and that's fine. But I might not agree with being against it, but that's a whole different conversation. But they would say it's like, people are saying life is sacred. But
if it's not, then why are you here?
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think it's an interesting point, and I guess to counter Aspie's point, you could say, well, someone has committed a crime, but we don't. And this is going to sound like an anti-capital punishment debate, but to address the point Aspie made, when it comes to that they took someone else's chance, it's like two wrongs wouldn't make a right. I mean, I guess you could say that, and with
usually the capital punishment is for those that are deemed too dangerous for society, as in if they're let out, there's a good chance they're going to end someone else's life as well. Accidental death, manslaughter, something like that, they don't give the chair or lethal injection. It's usually because you just flat out took a gun and blasted someone in the head. You have no remorse for ending a life. You're dangerous. You could end other lives with the same lack of remorse. So that guy's if you could show conscious of his actions.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could show that it's a deterrent, then sure. But I think if there's more evidence to say it's not. But I mean, to be fair, that is a capital punishment is a debate maybe for another day if you guys are for or against.
We haven't done capital punishment yet, so maybe we could save that for next week.
Yeah.
But
I guess
Greg versus
comparison.
George is illegal.
I would like to, but it is a valid topic or a valid comparison here. I mean, no, I think that's it's a false analogy to compare somebody who's being executed for criminality. But I do want to say this. So this is a quote from Adam Smith: "Mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent." So, based on that, I agree with the idea of the death penalty and capital punishment. But from a bureaucratic, or not a bureaucratic, but knowing what bureaucrats do and knowing how often they do things the wrong way, that's why I oppose the death penalty, is because, we don't get it right, and that's a huge problem. So
the death of innocent people is the reason why you're against the death penalty.
Yes, because we can get it wrong. We can pick the wrong person.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was when the technology was not advanced as it is now. There was that possibility, but today with all the DNA and everything that is so advanced,
there's still a problem. And okay. And with the pro-lifers, I'd have to say to all of you, if you ever want to catch a pro-choicer in their own hypocrisy, ask them, "Are you pro-capital punishment?" If they say no, but they're pro-choice. Yeah, you could say probably the same thing.
Yeah, but again, if they're viewing that the birth has not happened, so it's not a life that has full rights, it's not an infant yet, it's just this embryo or whatever they want to consider it, that's the lump of cells, you're comparing someone that is alive, someone that has been alive and breathing and is capable of taking care of themselves versus this lump of cells. That I can still see their point. Personally, I'm fully pro-life, but I'm more of a realist than I would say even my brother. I would rather be middle of the road than off to one extreme.
Yeah.
I would rather limit the amount of abortions than just try and cut it off and then have this back alley black market of abortions going on, because a lot of it, that's how it actually started, was illegally. It used to be illegal.
Yeah.
And it slowly gained steam and popped up. So it's going to happen again. So I just like to,
and with back alley abortions, the thing with that is that's more unsafe than abortions that are done in actual abortion clinics.
If you look at it like they're trying to attempt murder, then what do I care if their health is jeopardized? They seem to me, if they're willing to, if abortion is completely illegal, they know that and they've heard the arguments for it and they still want to go through with it, and get themselves a back alley abortion. Well, if something goes wrong, they deserve the consequences of that going wrong.
You put your own life at risk, basically.
It's like in my mind, human life begins at conception, and that person, the person who wants the abortion, is trying to end someone else's human life.
So do you think personhood begins at that too?
Sorry, what?
Do you think personhood begins at that too?
Yeah, I don't see what the difference is between a human life and personhood. They both are equal in my mind. I'm not sure how you can. I'm not sure how you can be one without the other.
I don't think you can separate the two.
Is it separate from? Is it not really a part of a woman's body since it's alive?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. A embryo is created, or no, I guess a zygote, I should say. A zygote is created when sperm from the male and an egg from a woman, or from the female, join together, and it creates an entirely new strand of DNA. So, name another part of a woman's body that has. So a woman, like that zygote can have an X and Y. Name a part of a woman that has X and Y chromosomes. That is a part of her. That seems I mean, unless
it still needs her body to develop now.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is something I brought up a little while ago when talking about the viability of a fetus. I'm like, well, even an infant still is dependent upon the mother. Like, I mean, I guess there's formula and there's wet nurses and things along those lines.
To kind of coincide with your point, if a mother has a child and she abandons it, let's say in an alley or a trash can at a high school prom or wherever. She leaves it. Is she legally responsible? Can she go to jail for this? Yes, she can. If that infant dies, that's manslaughter or possibly murder.
That's murder.
Well, that's
it's
fully
murder.
developed, though.
Yeah.
Yes, but is that infant still tied to the mother? Can that infant just go out, find some food, crawl around, get something to eat? Cannot. It is still tied to that mother and relies on that mother for nourishment to live. So it's only a couple of weeks difference from when it's born to when it's outside of the world, but it is still 100% dependent on someone else. Therefore, is it still her choice? Can she just abandon it then, and is that still choice?
I mean, some people are still dependent on their mothers even when they're like 18 and 20. I mean, look at all the
25.
Yeah, look at all the Amphitheater people out there.
I'm 21. Can be dependent on someone else?
So, I mean, my point is, even the instant that baby is born, it seems the laws or rules all change, but that baby hasn't changed. There's no difference.
We have adoption.
There's no real difference between that baby being born on that first day and 2 days previous when it was still in the womb.
Yeah.
The only difference is you can see it now, and so now you feel a lot more guilty if you took a needle and jabbed it in the back of the head. That child is still completely dependent on human intervention and help and cannot survive even a few days on its own if you just set it somewhere and said, have fun, good life, good luck. Yet, if that happens outside the womb, it is completely illegal. And that child, you know, that mother will be sentenced as a crime. Yeah. Will go to jail time. Whereas just a few weeks beforehand, or I guess it would still be a few months beforehand, there's nothing, and no one even considers that it's a potential life. It is now her body. And yet, even after the child's born, her body is still needed to sustain this child. It is still, you can still consider it somewhat of a parasitic relationship. That child depends on human interaction, human help. Cannot survive on its own.
I don't like the idea of the parasitic relationship either, because there have been, there are, so actually becoming pregnant does have a benefit to the mother. As far as, there's definitely research on this, and I can post this after the fact if you guys are interested, which is really interesting stuff to read about how stem cells from the baby will actually go to repair parts of the mother's biology. And it's because the infant needs the mom to stay alive in order for the infant, or sorry, I guess I should more accurately say the fetus needs the mother to be able to stay alive to protect it when it's in the womb, when it's in development, and when it's when it becomes an infant. So that's part of the process is that it will release stem cells into the outside uterus, and so in the amniotic fluid, and some of those stem cells will actually absorb through the walls and reach the mother. And it's been proven that women who become pregnant show lower signs or lower chances of having cancer. They live longer than women who haven't become pregnant. Their cases of osteoporosis are less likely or happen later on in life. So there are benefits where you can actually say, because where it can actually be proven that becoming pregnant actually extends a mother's life. So I wouldn't say it's a parasitic relationship with that in mind. It's.
I mean, if it's harming her health, I could see it like that. But if it's not harming her health, like, I mean, when women are pregnant, they might get sick a little more often, maybe in that area. But like a little parasitic. But like, I'm pretty sure there are more pros than cons when it comes to.
Yeah, and it's definitely an inconvenience. There's frequent trips to the bathroom because it's putting pressure on the bladder.
Yeah, this is all subjective again, guys, because there are some other adverse effects, back pain, potential muscle trauma, stuff like that, because it's a lot of extra weight. Secondly, would be their job.
The due date.
If they're in a career, and a lot of women have to end their career once they become pregnant.
Yeah.
So that is a detriment as well. It has to be considered, even though that's external, not physical.
Yeah.
It still has to deal with her livelihood.
This ain't a debate about the wage gap, people. Remember.
Wage gap.
Yeah.
The
gender wage gap, which is a load of bullshit, because that's one big part of it, is that women, a lot of times when they have children, they give up their careers, and a lot of them prefer to do that because they realize that they don't want to be a CEO, they want to be a mother. So
and so we'll definitely do one of these Thursdays about that.
I would like the money of a CEO, but I'd rather spend time with my kids. Not at work. Those guys are nuts.
In the Hangout chat,
80-hour work weeks.
Yeah, in the Hangout chat, I just posted a video link. I was just looking for other information on abortion, because the topic, even though it is a bit of a grotesque topic, I do find it interesting as it is thought-provoking. I'm not pro-choice to the extent of where if I hear someone saying they're pro-life, I think there's some evil misogynistic piece of shit, but I'm just like, oh. Aspie had to listen to that for a whole 90 minutes one time. Phil, sorry for you. Anyway, the video, if there's any conservatives in this Hangout, which I don't know if there are conservatives, but if you are, I recommend you watch it.
Shout out to Owen McDonald.
Had a farm. Anyway, in the Hangout chat, there's a video. I recommend you watch, anyone that's a conservative, if you are. That video, I found it. It's directed towards any conservative on abortion, but it's not from me. But anyway,
so it's a pro-choice video.
It's from someone from someone I've streamed with that is a pro-choicer, and I was gonna play the video, but the audio is gonna suck. But anyway,
because I have conservative values, but I don't think I'm quite conservative. I would say more.
I'd say I'm
physically conservative.
I'd say I'm physically conservative, but that's probably it. But anyway. All right, so I was just Googling.
Okay, I know this is going to come up. So this has kind of been the elephant in the room. As far as I know, nobody here can get pregnant. So anything we say in this chat will be immediately dismissed by by most other people.
By feminists.
Oh, you're making you can't have an opinion because you're a man. I think they're
attacking you can't have an opinion because you'll never get pregnant. This won't affect you.
You know what I say to her? This ain't about your uterus. This is about what's inside your uterus. So shut up.
Yeah. So and like what Saiyomi was talking about earlier, about it being a part of the mother. That's so.
Actually, it's not. It's not a part of the mom. It's actually. Okay. Here's where I'd have to say it's not. I mean, just because someone seatbelts themselves to their car doesn't mean they're like a part of the car. Or just because I put on my clothes, my clothes are not a part of my body. I mean, that's just an analogy.
This is completely different on point of view. The embryo develops as part of the mother's cells. It grows and it has the umbilical cord attached to her inner wall. It has constantly always been attached to her body since the day of conception.
So I guess
in the state. So it's definitely is part of her body.
Yeah, it's definitely part of her body.
No, I wouldn't say it's a part of her body. It has
Yes, it is. Even after birth,
it's physically part of her body.
My son is 50% me and 50% his mom. He's even part of my body still. He's 12 or no, 11.
Huh. Okay.
Okay.
So even after birth, they still contain your DNA.
When they're saying part of the woman's body, they are saying it is a part of her and not an independent entity. I'm saying it is an independent entity. It has a different DNA structure, can have a different blood type, can have a completely different sex. The only other type of cell that can kind of be like that is a cancer cell. And yet cancer is not considered a part of the host body. And cancer is only different by a very small amount of the DNA structure. Whereas the fetus and the embryo and the zygote, at least 50% of the DNA is completely different from the mother's. So if we don't think that cancer is the same thing as the host body or as part of the host, it doesn't make any sense to me to say that the developing baby or at any stage during that development is a part of the mother when at least half of it is different.
So then again, this all comes down just directly or strictly to semantics. However we view it, that baby is still there. That infant or embryo, whatever you want to call it, inside the mother's womb It's still there. It doesn't change the fact that it's there. It doesn't change the fact that she's pregnant or what could happen if she goes full term, that it should, grow into a human being, an adult at some point in their life. It doesn't change any of that. So it's more semantics arguing, well, since it's attached, it's apart. And yet you're saying, yes, it's attached, but the 50%, it's all the same.
No.
None of that actually matters.
It's a completely new person. That's what matters.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that point. But I'm
saying it as a part of her body is trying to undermine that position. That's why they use that argument.
And I understand that. But when I said as part of her body, I'm pointing out physicalities, not pro-choice stance on if it's part of her body. Just as the way I also stated that even after child's born, it's still part of the mother. It's completely dependent on the mother, even though they're not physically connected at all. And if you go further to emotional connection, which has been proven that children succeed better, they learn faster, they grow into more mature people if they have their mother, if she is able to take time off of work and be there. It's still a part of the mother.
Yeah, hey, news, you guys. This is completely separate, but the 2,800 files on the JFK assassination were just released.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that's a lot.
What does it say?
But wait for somebody to read that and tell me what's in it.
What?
Holy
fuck!
We're all gonna die, guys. We're gonna get assassinated. But yeah.
It's probably going to be nothing, but I hope there's something interesting in there.
We should open and go through it.
We're all going to get killed afterwards if we read it, so it was nice knowing you. But anyway.
I'm hoping there's something juicy in there, but I doubt it. But then it makes you wonder, why was it sealed for so long?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So why did you seal this for so long? There's nothing in here. You guys were playing the long con.
There was no grassy knoll.
It was the longest practical joke ever.
Yeah. So my overall stance on the main subject,
like Gemini was doing with Whitey.
And this might be more geared towards like SonofLucifer and Saiyomi. So Saiyomi, you said you're pro-choice. So this would be more.
But I think it should be the last option, though.
I agree with
so I think that's a good stance.
I agree too.
Ultimately, I would like it to where people don't need abortions. And I mentioned it on my brother's last debate. It would be better if it was just not necessary. If people got pregnant when they wanted to be, and they took enough precautionary measures beforehand, and our contraceptives worked as best, 100% instead of 99%, and we didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah. Also, I think it'll be a thing of the past too, due to medical science.
I know people who just bump and uglies, and then once they did that, they would just get an abortion just because,
Yeah.
That's sick to me,
So to me, it's more lack of responsibility, and abortions have crept up and become more mainstay in the American and Western culture mindset because it has been slowly introduced with these terms, this semantic twisting of words, this way of viewing certain scientific principles and physicalities of how a child's actually born and trying to separate when it's alive and conscious, all these different variables that say when it should be acceptable for an embryo inside the womb to have rights, if any.
Yeah.
And most people are under the mindset it doesn't get any rights till the day it's born, what about 2 months early, and now they have rights 2 months before they should have. How's that work? So my overall mindset is let's do the same.
Somebody should make premature births illegal. Those guys are jumping the gun.
If we just try and cut it off and say all abortions are illegal, we're going to have a lot of trouble on our hands. I think the best way to do is just reverse the way it started. It has to be slowly trickled down, and the mindset of the U.S. and Western civilization needs to again be shifted more to pro-life of everybody. The mother and the infant, not just, I like to be free and go around. I want to drink 2 gallons of alcohol on the weekend, and I want to sleep with 10 different people this month.
Be an irresponsible cunt about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more responsibility type of mindset rather than I just want to be free to go out and party it up and sleep around. I know that's not all abortions. It's not all abortions like that, but that's the vast majority of abortions. Is people do not take enough responsibility beforehand for their actions, and now they don't want to deal with any sort of extra impact on their life, so they're looking for the quickest route to get rid of any impedance on their current life.
Because of, Sorry, you go, man.
Okay, 2 questions. So I'm assuming we have 3 pro-lifers and 3 pro-choice people, right? Or is that ratio correct?
Yes.
I'm kind of like mixed between both sides, to be honest.
All right, and I think Aspie may have said the same in the Twitter group chat. If I can find it.
Yeah, it seems to be about even, though. I think we.
Well, there's a line between. There's 2 types of debates here when you talk about abortion. There's the question of legality and how much the state should regulate, and then there's the question of morality. I think we're all on board with the morality of abortion, which is basically it's wrong. Okay, you're killing a potential human life. In fact, you are killing human life. But I think on the legality side of it, it's like it's impractical to make it illegal.
Well, okay, and I guess
human. I mean, it is a potential human life.
I think maybe I can agree with maybe the pro-lifers on the side of, I think when people argue, oh, it's my body, it's my justification. I think those are the weakest pro-choice arguments. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever a male feminist cucked beta faggot is like, it's a woman's right, and it's like, fuck off. No, you can say that all you want, but find a stronger argument. Literally, that's what he'd say. But anyway. Okay.
If it's a woman's right, why don't we extend that to when the child's like, the child's under 10 years old. It's a woman's right, though. Boom. That's a weak argument because they take it to that extreme.
Yeah.
He gets to determine when something is alive and not, or when something is a person or not. It's her responsibility or her choice or her decision.
I heard a really funny joke about that by Christopher Titus, where he said he believes that there should be, after the baby's born, a 22-year late-term abortion window.
What the fuck?
Because he said that, at 22 years old, because you got to make sure the kid can handle his alcohol. If he's good, and then one night he gets drunk and punches grandma in the face, you're like, "Aw, you were so close. We're gonna miss you."
I would say I do agree that the whole out of convenience, I can agree with pro-lifers like Zach HUMANE and HUMANE's brother here. I can agree that is a stupid reason. Like, even in my earlier days of being pro-choice, I thought that was an incredibly stupid reason. I'm thinking, it's like, you can say it's out of convenience, but I'm the person where if I get a girl pregnant, I'm going to take responsibility. Yeah, I have to. I believe that's a moral obligation on my part. I wouldn't suggest abortion. And, I mean, I've heard of a few cases, and to be fair, these are a few cases where a pro-lifer had suggested to his mistress, a politician, and I think it was Kentucky, he was trying to get her to abort the kid. Now, to be fair, this doesn't apply to all pro-lifers, so hashtag not all. So as long as you're consistent with your position, I'm fine with it. If you do get an abortion, let's say I'm a pro-lifer tomorrow, I'm not going to bully you about it, because that's just gonna it's a Streisand effect. But I think we're at a point where I don't think we're ever going to be able to reduce the amount of abortions that have happened. We've had 60 million, I think, or at least around that figure since Roe v. went down. So,
and all of them are black.
So I think that's because people have a purely is it legal or is it illegal perspective, and so I think we base way too much of our actions based on that sort of mentality. Well, it's not illegal, so I'm going to do it, and it ends up that's like, look at the housing market. That entire thing, everybody knew it was unethical. Everybody knew it was the wrong thing to do, or at least all the people who were pulling the strings, and they either didn't care or they were like, well, it's not illegal, I'm just going to do it. Yeah. Oh, some of them were too stupid to see it coming, but a lot of them just like, well, it's not illegal, I'm going to do it, whatever. So I think the only way to limit the number of abortions is, like my brother was saying, about the personal responsibility, but that ties into morality. And like that's kind of the reason I was having that debate on last Saturday with Cult of Ham. It all comes down to morality, but it has to start there, and we have to come to some kind of consistent morality that we can all work from in order to establish these. Where should we be responsible? What areas are what areas are subjective where you can just, hey, it's your personal choice, you can do whatever, and it's not going to affect other people, and what areas do you have to consider your actions consequences on other people? Because I think that is the realm of morality. It's trying to figure out which actions.
So trying to like hope for a miracle for people to change is like, you know, trying to. Yeah. I think there does need to be more alternatives for birth control, and there also needs to be more incentives not to have an abortion, to cut it down.
To me personally, I don't believe that. Like when it comes to people education, I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I will say this though: when it comes to the whole topic, I would simply say we should always encourage people to find other options. I don't believe, like, when it comes to people saying, "Oh, we should only teach abstinence about pregnancy and everything." I say that's not the solution.
No, I'm not even saying
I get
that's the problem. Just lack of sexual education.
Yeah. I'm just saying
proper use of birth control.
People like proper
education. Purchase a pack of condoms. You're using both consecutively every time. There's a very extremely microscopically slim chance that she's going to wind up pregnant, because you've taken proper action beforehand. Now, if on that 0.01% chance or whatever it is, 0.001% chance that both the birth control and the condom fail on the same night, that kid just really wants to be born, more power to him. But, you know, that's not the case for practically almost all of abortions. It's just a lack of responsibility, and we are rewarding lack of responsibility with ease and of lifestyle, lack of commitment, and just a way to toss the responsibility to the wind and say, well, it's not a life, it's a lump of cells, goodbye, problem gone, wipe their hands. So that's the education, not necessarily abstinence. That's a bit much to ask for an entire civilization to say, everyone stop fucking. But I think it's not to say, when you do, make sure you pick your partners wisely. Don't go out to a bar and just look for the first chick that says hi. Don't look for the first guy that buys you a drink. Don't do that. It's your body, your choice. Make a good choice. Find a guy that's going to be there and support you in case you do become pregnant. Then you're more likely to actually start your family. Maybe you'll have a total mind change and decide, hey, I think I'm ready to be a mom. I found a guy that I like. So don't just go bar hopping and sleeping with every dude or finding any easy chick. Take responsibility and value in yourself. Look for somebody that equals your standards.
Maybe this is the one thing
people actually drop on their own.
Yeah, and this is probably something I think we all can agree on. I can only speak for myself. I can agree with what HUMANE's brother. I'm just going to call you
Sinister.
Just call me Sinister.
Sinister. Very okay. Awesome. Okay, I can agree with you. I do believe in. I will say I'm torn on the whole sex before marriage thing. I know that's another topic for another time, but yeah, I do believe you could find someone, the right person. I don't believe in sleeping with 50 people. I think that's not only unsafe for your own health, regardless of pregnancy, which I think the risks of catching STIs are more should be more of a concern than necessarily getting pregnant. But
or just both.
Both. I do believe in always encouraging more education on the topic. I don't know. When it comes to me, it's like even though I would like it if people could find another option besides just thinking, oh, I must go straight for abortion. Just with me personally, and I don't know if this is just how I was raised or whatnot, but to not invade other people's autonomy, but I do get where the pro-lifers do come from. And this was from an ex-libertarian, the same one I referenced last time, saying when he was a libertarian that he believes it's a contradiction to be a libertarian and a pro-lifer. If you're the kind that says we must make it illegal.
That guy is just all kinds of bizarre. How do you be an ex-libertarian?
I think there's two types of pro-lifers. I would consider myself the secondary. The primary one's the one that's on the news, and the one that's, Bible thumping everyone on the back of the head. You're murderers and you're going to hell. Stuff like that. Those are the ones that are willing to put their values and say, you need to follow these rules because this is the right way. My way is the right way. And then I take the more view of, I have my own personal values. I myself am a Christian, so I take a lot of my values from a Christian lifestyle and standpoint.
Zach does as well.
But I'm not going to enforce my way of thinking and my lifestyle on you. What you do is up to you. It's your life. I can chat with you. I'll debate. I'll discuss things with you, and I'm more than happy to do that, just like we're doing this evening. And I'm cool with that. But I can also stand by and see that we're having like 1 million. Is it something? 1 million abortions a year?
Yeah, a million a year. And
that's not a small number. That's 1 million dead people.
And most of them are black.
Yeah.
So,
most of them are black.
So I'm fine with people doing their own thing, but when there's 1 million lives ended per year just because people want to screw around, something's off there. Something's not right. And so it's not trying to impose a moral viewpoint. It's trying to say everybody needs to take a step back and say, why are we having 1 million abortions?
That's ridiculous.
I'm going to be bringing up a few. I'm going to be bringing up a few things, and I know this is going to sound fucking horrible, but I think if we allow the context to be brought in, maybe it could be. Okay, so to Aspie, your claim that they're mostly black. I don't know necessarily why. I've heard people claim that abortion is something about white supremacy or something. I'm not saying that's your point entirely, but I'd have to say citation needed on your whole. Most of them are black. To me, regardless, like I am against sex-selective abortion. I think that's absolutely stupid, but I don't think that's really done in the United States. More, it probably is Islamic nations or where they prefer boys.
No, that would only be if they're forcing abortions on certain races or
they're not forcing abortion.
If that happens to be a true statistic where there's a good majority that are black embryos being aborted, it's because there are entire communities out there of black people that have the wrong mindset.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not, because look at the welfare state with the black. They're being rewarded for
being on welfare.
Okay, and with this point here, I'm going to bring up. I've heard people vegan say animal holocaust. I guess pro-lifers could say the baby holocaust, which sounds fucked up. And before anyone says that's not what it is, destruction or slaughter on a mass scale, and I guess you could call abortion slaughter if you really want to go into word games or whatever, or just if you want to call it that. I guess you wouldn't be entirely correct. Destruction or slaughter on a mass scale, especially caused by fire or nuclear war, but it's not limited to just that. So I guess if you want to say an abortion is destruction or slaughter, I guess grammatically you wouldn't be incorrect. You'd probably get a few eye rolls, but you guys got thick enough skin to deal with that. Anyway,
I guess if you not the correct word there, but
I don't know what else to use. To be honest, I guess you could say you'd be. That's okay. To be fair, that's maybe a minuscule point for me to bring up, but
sorry, it's just
there's a major difference.
I would agree with you that you could apply the term Holocaust in this situation.
I mean, to be fair, 60 million in the last. I can't remember off the top of my head the year Roe v. Wade happened. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was in the 60s, and 50 years later, or 50 somewhere in that ballpark, we got 60 million abortions almost. To be fair, you could say that's more than what Stalin or Hitler did.
That's almost like 10 million. That's just under 10 million abortions a year. It's like, and how many of that? There's like 365 of days in a year. So do the math on that one.
10 million again. If they pay for this shit themselves, they're not going to be in such a damn hurry to make that their first option. They're going to be
I do believe
wanting to use birth control.
I agree. I don't want to pay for it.
Abortion itself, I think that if on the whole Planned Parenthood thing, everything else besides abortion, I'm fine with my tax dollars going to, as long as I know that's what it is going to. But abortion, be fine. I think the person should pay for it themselves. If that's the service.
See, there's a problem with that mentality, and this is something I brought up in my debate with the Penguin. Because of the way the business works with Planned Parenthood, even if right now their claim is that our tax dollars aren't going to fund abortion, they're just to support all those other things. Well, what that does is that frees up funding for Planned Parenthood to support other things. I mean, so the funding from the government, it pays for those other services that Planned Parenthood runs, So that frees up money for them to devote towards abortions.
So would that be the equivalent of a drug dealer? The government doesn't subsidize him through welfare programs to sell drugs. They just help him get a cheap house.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. As well, that frees up more money for them to invest into facilities to perform abortions. It's like someone you know who is an alcoholic, and you're providing them money for food every month. And, well, you're not paying for their alcohol, but you're just providing them food to live off of. Well, what does that do? That means they spend more of their paycheck on alcohol. So you didn't.
Because they don't have to pay for that food.
Yeah, because they didn't have to pay for the food. That's what the situation is with Planned Parenthood. While the U.S. dollars, taxpayer money, isn't going towards the abortions themselves, it's indirectly contributing to that process, which is why I was saying they should be two separate organizations. But
I would agree. I don't understand why the government
can I say something
at all.
Can I say something? I was going to say that that's something in Planned Parenthood is that, people say that, Planned Parenthood provides a whole bunch of other services other than abortion. And so, but most of those services are working up to the abortion, like the mammogram, the pregnancy test. Those are all considered what you would call a procedure. Each one of those things is considered a service, and all of those work up to the abortion. You may have 50 services before the abortion. I mean, that's just a random number I picked off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's pretty high.
Yeah. Actually, I'd actually have to point something out. I do find it interesting that they would do those things when I know this personally because I knew someone in my family who had a kid, and she'd just go to the regular hospital for these type of these type of the fuck do you call it when they screen the stomach for the kid?
Ultrasound.
Ultrasound. Yeah, ultrasound. Yeah, they do that at the regular hospital, or at least in my state, which I don't know about your guys' states, but in my state, you can just go to the regular hospital for it.
Every hospital has that.
Yeah.
So what would it would be kind of silly to have that also in Planned Parenthood. I'd have to say it's a bit silly for them to have it as well. It's like
it's just advertised as a company that is more readily available in hospitals to help with contraceptives and day after pills, stuff like that. However, that's the government subsidized part, which they don't really make any money off of. What they're planning on is people failing to use those products properly and come back later for the abortion, which they make a lot of money. That is their business. So I don't think the government should be subsidizing them whatsoever. They should actually kind of start to whittle themselves out of business because they're too expensive, because they're no longer getting subsidized. You're 100% correct. All those other procedures can be done at the hospital and have been done at the hospital for decades.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is if Planned Parenthood completely disappears tomorrow, companies will come and take their place and do everything other than the abortion and get federal subsidies.
Yeah, there's
there's no reason for another company not to if those services are requested by the communities around them.
If they're not subsidized, I think other companies are going to take over.
Yeah. All right, and it is 7:30, and I have to go. So
all right, okay.
I think for next week we will do Capital Punishment. Although I want to say we talked about that, but maybe that was just over DMs and stuff.
There's some other ideas too that were coming
up. Maybe we can say this. Maybe this call it. I don't know, but this is interesting. I will have to say I am thinking this over. So I'm not saying you've changed my mind, but given me the incentive to think it over a lot more.
Hey, sure, cool. Hey, you guys, I just want to tell you that tomorrow, or I think maybe Sunday, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe Saturday or Sunday, I might be having before Halloween, kind of my pre-Halloween stream, a tinfoil hat stream.
Sure, I think I'll try and see if I can join. Anyway, that is all for this one, everyone. I recommend you check everyone out in this stream. And as always, stay classy.